Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Triathlon. That's where Tim Ford, that's me, James Bell, that's him. We get together normally every week to talk about triathlon. It didn't happen last week, mate.
Didn't happen last week. There was fuck all to talk about, wasn't there? There was nothing.
You shouldn't swear in the first minute because
This is
YouTube
true.
gets cranky.
This is true. YouTube gets cranky. Bleep me. But yeah, we logged on last week to actually record the episode. We got to this point, didn't we, where we were like, right, looking at each other on Zoom and scrolling the news of triathlon. And we're both pretty tied into the news flow anyway. So if me and you are going to get to the point of recording and don't have anything to talk to and are looking at news sites to try and find it, there isn't anything to talk about. So we recorded a bonus episode instead for the Patreon.
We did. I'm glad we did that. But yeah, it was grim. And again, I feel guilty because this is now, we're what 1 month into the year of recording. We've done 2 episodes. We've missed 2 weeks already. But I'm starting to think maybe next year we delay it. We extend our break a little bit longer because there has just been scraps to talk over.
Might be a case of having January off.
Maybe. Mate, what's going on in your world apart from being busy, which is the standard answer? So
yeah, really, really busy. Lots and lots of traveling. But I'm home for an evening tonight and then back to Bristol tomorrow. But I think I'm getting a handle on this hip issue. I'm doing a lot of single leg weighted mobility work, which I think is easing the hip. I'm having this week off running completely, just focusing on the single leg work and the mobility, getting the hip issue under control, and then I should be able to hopefully start running again next week and not have lost too much of a step.
love to hear it. So hopefully London will still be on. Have you seen a physio?
Oh, London's on. Even if I run it with a cooked hip, I'll still do it. I'll just hobble around.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What a silly thing to say.
How are you, mate? Anyway,
I'm good. Yeah. My quads are burning because my new coach has me doing all this like work to specifically load my quads, and so my quads are quite sore, which is good. But no, things are going well here. I recorded this week. I did the first recorded interview of the new show that I'm launching later this year, The Endurers. I'll flick you the episode I've only done the interview yet. I've still got to do the other stuff. Got an audio editor, got the theme song, got it all. Got to do some work around the structure and how it's actually going to work outside of the interview. But it's coming along, mate. I've got to confirm a few more guests. A few athletes said no, which is completely fine considering it's probably a little bit different to other podcasts around endurance sports that's out there. But I think if the first interview, which I did with Tyler Mislachuk, is a sort of benchmark, I think we're up for a pretty special sort of new thing. So watch this space. It'll be
a very
coming.
Interesting journey to listen to all of those. I'm hoping that I get them in just delivered into my inbox in a lump, so I can just binge them on one of my long drives at some point.
I'll give you the Tyler because I've done Tyler now. I'm probably going to do. I know I'm not doing some until March and April. But I'd like to,
give me the Tyler one. Let me have a listen.
Early feedback and see if you like the format and stuff. So, I'm really, I think that's going to probably, I'm going to aim for that to all start coming out in like probably May. So still a few months away, bit of a chance to build some hype. But again, I really want to do this properly. And because, I think if the first season, as I call it, works, then we'll continue to do more. So a little bit riding on it. But again, it's just a passion project. It's not something we're doing for fame or fortune. He wouldn't be a podcaster if he were. But other than that, mate.
This is not a retirement fund, is it?
We did shout ourselves dinner in London off some of our Patreon dollars. We make that a work meeting, which was lovely. But yeah, if you want to help us pay for work dinners and things like that, you can head to patreon.com/talking triathlon where you can support the podcast for $5 a month. As we said, we recorded a bonus episode last week in lieu of this episode. Feedback seems to be pretty positive. The members really seem to enjoy that, which is good. For people who wonder what it is just us being a lot more, I guess, honest. Not worrying so much about.
Not that we, it's just a little less, unshackled from the hype train that is a podcast designed for the masses, so that we can impart sporting the reporting on the pro side of the sport. It's slightly different. We don't really report on the pro side of the sport in the bonus episodes, do we? We just discuss what we feel.
Talk shit about it.
Yeah.
No, it was good. It was good fun. But yeah, you have got a great guest this week, an absolute favorite of ours here at Talking Triathlon, India Lee. Uh, I haven't listened to it yet. I know you've recorded it. I'm very much looking forward to listening to your chat with India. But before we get to that, we'll drop that in later. There are a few things happening in the world of triathlon this week. You had a few things that you wanted to discuss. So, mate, where would you like to start? Where can we go to start with?
Well, I just wanted to pick your brains, really. How's Joe feeling about New Zealand? Because as the listeners probably already know, he's already in New Zealand prepping for his first Ironman, which is kind of like, after his sort of slight dip in form, let's say, he's coming back to reclaim his place in the sport. How's he feeling, mate?
I think things are looking really, really good. I mean, look, I obviously full disclosure, I work with Joe, so take what I say with a grain of salt. I've had a lot of long chats with Joe now that he's on my time zone, which makes things much easier. But I believe he's in a very good place. Cautiously optimistic. The training seems to be going really well. And I think I like the fact that Joe's starting his season at a slightly lower. What would you say? Not tier, lower focused event this year because I think it just gives him an opportunity to sort of race himself back into form. Yeah, look, I think things are looking really good. The numbers he's talking, everything sounds really, really positive. There's still going to be some fire on that start list. Again, not that I'm biased, but Mike Phillips, I've seen Mike, is training really hard for it as well. Ironman New Zealand is a very iconic event, so there's plenty of people who will be there, I think, to do good work. I know that Joe's had a little niggle in his shoulder, so he hasn't been swimming as much as he would like, but he's down there with Billy and Fenella, who's whipping him into shape. But all reports are things are going well, so I'm looking for. I'll be heading over to New Zealand for that event at the end of this month, which I'm just going to duck over for the weekend. But I think, look, there's obviously a lot in the line this season for Joe, as there are for a lot of athletes. And I think this Ironman race is going to determine a lot of what the rest of his season looks like. The Pro Series, it's
Yeah.
interesting with the
Oh,
Pro Series this year.
I hope he has a good race. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it.
I think what is interesting this year with the Pro Series is that last year it was very American focused to start with. You had Oceanside straight into Texas. Whereas this year you've got options. You've got Geelong and South Africa, which are both sort of Southern Hemisphere starts to the season. Then you've got the Oceanside Texas double. So it's going to be curious to see. I mean, we've seen a lot of the athletes who've said they're going to be in South Africa. I know you've got, the likes of Magnus Ditlev, Sam Laidlow, Jeremy Riddle's making his debut. I think Andy Horsfall-Turner's on the start list for South Africa as well. But
Rasmus Svenningsen's there.
there we go. So I think South Africa's going to be
Defending
stacked.
champion.
Correct. And then Geelong, we've got, Yellow Gaines, the 70.3 world champion, Aaron Royal. I've heard Max Newman might be doing it. So again, like there's this it's quite deep. And then you look at Oceanside, which was crazy last year, same weekend as PTO T100 Singapore. The fact that you're going to have a few of those athletes doing Southern Hemisphere races, are we going to see those Northern Hemisphere, as I say, Oceanside and Texas being kind of more American focused? Are we going to get the Matthew Marquards, the Matt Hansons, the Rudy Von Bergs, those people that are focusing on are we going to see a bit more of a division this year? Are we going to see the kind of like the collegiate idea where you're going to have a lot more of the Americans doing their races and rest of the world doing other races? I'm not sure. So it's interesting to see. I guess time will tell.
You're popping over to New Zealand. Is it easy to pop over to New Zealand for a weekend in terms of cost?
Yeah. I mean, it's expensive. It's only a 3-hour flight to Auckland. I think the biggest struggle with Taupo is that you either got to get another flight to Taupo from Auckland, and it's only a tiny airport, or drive, and it's like a 3-hour drive. I normally drive down, so that would be my plan. But again, the biggest error is just because I was meant to be doing something else that weekend, and I only recently found out I'm available to go to New Zealand. Good luck trying to find decent accommodation 2.5 weeks out from Ironman. It's absolute chaos. So if anybody listening has a spare room in Taupo for Ironman weekend, let me know. But yeah, it is. I'll be over there. I know that I've got a few things I need to do for work, as well as some of my guys racing. So, and it's beautiful. You've been in New Zealand. It's a beautiful part of the world.
Beautiful place.
Cool.
Beautiful place.
You mentioned before we started, our friend, our favorite, Lionel Sanders has been.
Lionel Sanders is back. He's back.
Tell me.
In the headlines, mate, and it's really surprising. He's as for someone who's normally as consistent and dialed in with an approach as him, he's saying that he's going to change his approach to training this season.
Okay.
I mean, who'd have thought it?
Who would have thought it? He is. What's he doing this time? What's the plan? Do you know?
He said he is going to train smarter, not harder. And he's been talking about his illogical training practices in recent years as he aims to achieve his best this season. He will, he said this year is about doing the specific volume to meet the demand that I will place on myself in the race. Can I ride my can I ride my bike for only 2 hours and expect to do 4 hours at the bottom of zone 3, upper zone 2, and then also run well in zone 3? The answer to that is no. Why in the world would you be able to do that suddenly on any particular race day? That's illogical. From a volume standpoint, I believe in specificity of volume. So as long as I'm doing the specific sessions to meet the demands of the race, then whatever the volume of that ends up being is what the volume ends up being.
Do you know there's that moment in The Hangover where Alan is at in the casino and he's sitting there and you see all their calculations and everything going up the screen ahead of him?
Yeah.
Do you know that's what I felt like then while I was listening to you say that. I mean, yeah, he's very, very correct. And
it's illogical to me to be training like a pro tour cyclist for a race they want to win over 20 days. They have to be able to perform on day 7, day 9, day 12, day 15, day 20, literally in a row, hard 5-hour racing days. So to train like them, that's not even remotely the demand to which we encounter as triathletes. It's the most illogical and stupid thing I can think of. Yes, that's what I've been striving to do the last few years. So
what?
To quote him from his own
video,
his own words, he's been training like a pro cyclist.
But didn't he say that he was doing 2-hour sessions and expecting to ride for 4 hours?
Yeah, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But you know, he's refocused himself. He's trying to go for smarter, not harder, and logical training as opposed to illogical training.
Well, as I said, all I ever want to see is Lionel Sanders do really, really well. I do feel a little kick on my neck. I feel like I might have a little bit of whiplash. But no, good on him. Good to hear that he's. I mean, here's a crazy concept. A coach will often help with making sure you're doing the specific training you need to do. And I know that he had a very successful time with Dave Tilbury Davis. But look,
who's coaching him now?
I don't think anybody is. I honestly don't know.
Okay.
But you know what? I love the journey. Lionel is one of those incredible journeymen. And I love just following the journey. So I wish him nothing but the best. I just
totally
want to see Lionel
see him
crushing it
and do well.
God, I just want to. Honestly, I still think about how what it was like watching Daniela Reef win that world title in St. George. I may actually die if he won Kona. Like I might, my heart might just stop. Of joy.
He would implode on the finish line in a bundle of rage excitement.
Can you? Oh man, it'd be incredible.
It would be a dramatic thing to witness.
Speaking of dramatic things to witness, we have a race this weekend. The season, can you believe it? It's February. It's Valentine's Day tomorrow, and we're going to have WTCS racing back in Abu Dhabi after it got washed out last year. All the athletes flew all the way to Abu Dhabi, got there, and the race got cancelled. Here we go. 12 months later, WTCS Abu Dhabi, mate. I know you are absolutely pumped for WTCS Abu Dhabi this year. In fact, WTCS overall, I know it's probably your highlight of the year based on what we spoke about last week on the podcast.
It's all I'm thinking about. We're starting with a sprint triathlon in Abu Dhabi. It's when is it? Saturday the 15th. So it's the day after Valentine's Day. It's on the Saturday. So there'll be a load of people racing. Who have we got on the women's side?
Wow, there'll be a lot of people racing. This is why you listen to Talking Triathlon, folks. You get those
Cassandra Brogran, Beth Potter, Emma Lombardi, Lisa Tersch, Jahan Leher, Leonie Pario, and Kate Woff will be racing.
Excellent.
On the women's side.
Cassandra's on the start list.
Yes, so I'm told, reliably by the internet. On the men's side, Hayden Wild's going to be there, Matt Hauser, Miguel Hidalgo, who else? Hugo Milner. Alex Yee's not racing, is he?
No. Is he on the start list?
No, he's not. No, I'm just informing the audience.
Morgan Pearson I've seen is in Abu Dhabi, I think as well. He's another one that's on the start list.
He's not on my list here, but yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I know he's there. Yeah. My excitement levels are not high at the moment for WTCS this year.
No, it'd be
Um,
interesting to see what happens. I mean, it's certainly with for me, it'll be a case of just checking the results. I don't think I'll be watching this race.
yeah, me
I
neither.
don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough weight to it right now to draw me in. The first race of this first season after the Olympics is, if we're going to tie ourselves around these Olympics cycles so much, then you're gonna have a bit of a drop off. I think in that first season after
I
the
th
Olympics.
yeah, I think that's exactly the point, right? Is that they have, for better or worse, really tied themselves to the Olympics. Like, you can't watch a WTCS race in the year before the Olympics without the commentators spending half the broadcast talking about the Olympics. So
Yeah.
you can't do that and then expect the same levels of excitement a year later, especially considering the number of athletes we've seen. I mean, you look at the Hayden Wilds, the Morgan Pearsons, the Kate Woffs, these athletes that we know have already confirmed the T100 this year. I look at that and go, well, how focused are they on the WTCS? I know that athletes have to do a certain number of races to maintain their rankings and maintain their eligibility, probably to maintain their funding. So I wonder, I'm like, well, that's why I'm like, oh, I'm actually not, I mean, Hayden Wild is an incredible athlete who always goes out to absolutely win any race he does, but is he going to have the same specificity as somebody who is specifically, I mean, probably it's Hayden Wild, but I mean, the women's, I just look at that, it's like Cassandra Beaugrand, I expect to do it because it's Cassandra Beaugrand. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they are in this situation where they're like trying to get us excited now, but they've made their bed a little bit, so they have to lay in it where they've tied the Olympics so closely and so heavily to what they're doing that how can they then expect people to? Do you know what I mean? Like it just feels like a bit of
Yeah,
a
totally. And you see that, especially this year, we seem to have, we've seen a substantial amount of names that we know come out of that short course racing now, step up to long. So, even if it's not a drop off of enthusiasm that's conscious, it's going to take time to build up an idea of who's who now, because there's going to be new names racing, new people to get to know. You're going to have to understand people's strengths and weaknesses. It's going to take a while to repopulate that ecosystem as a fan in your mind. There's still names on there that we know. I'm not saying it's a complete revamp, but there are gonna be new people racing, and it's gonna be take a while to get back to those excitement levels.
Well, I think that's an interesting little activity to go through, and I know we're gonna like we will talk about Abu Dhabi specifically, but like let's just talk about those names that sort of aren't going to feature in short course racing. And when you start to talk about them, you realize how important these names are. We're talking Martin Van Riel, Vincent Louis, Yella
Mm.
Gaines, Henry Schoeman. I know that Hayden and that are on there, but like Hayden Wild, Morgan Pearson, these guys, Leo
Tyler
Berger, these guys.
Chuck, I know he's racing the old race, but he's not going to be like all in on that season.
I don't think any of these athletes are going to be all in on the
Georgia Taylor
WTCS.
Brown, she's fucked off to cycling.
Apparently, oh, maybe there's I don't know. But also, yeah, Jess Lemont, Flora Duffy,
Katie
uh,
Safiras is gone.
Sophie Colwell, Katie, like all these athletes that are such stalwart,
Yeah,
it
it's
just
it's
does.
there are names that we still know racing, but when you start listing those people that aren't racing, it sounds like the fields we're used to, doesn't it? It sounds like the population of those names and fields that we're used to. So I think what I say stands. It's going to take a while for people to re-engage. It's almost like if you're a fan of the Formula Ones, just swiping the field away and putting new names in, apart from maybe the world champion and a couple of others.
There's some athletes that I am excited to watch race this year, and I think that they have a very good shot of not mean their potential, but like I don't know, and I think of Matt Hauser at top of the list for me. I have so much time for Matt Hauser, not just the fact that he's Australian, but he's just a good guy, and I feel like
Yeah, he's a great bloke.
he's had a lot of a lot of bad luck and a lot of races where he hasn't not. I mean, he's won races, he's won plenty of WTCS races. Matt's the sort of athlete I could see winning a WTCS world title this year. Vasco Valasa is a similar sort of athlete, so good. We got the French guys, the Dorian Connex, is the Pierre Lecours that they always seem to fly under the radar a little bit. Yeah, I think that there is. I mean, Hugo Milner. I'm so keen. I really want to see Hugo. I hope he's managed to overcome those challenges he's had on the bike because I think he is the next big thing in British triathlon, and I think yeah, if you're a British athlete trying to get one of those slots to LA, you need to think that it's probably going to be Alexia and Hugo Milner. Maybe they get a third slot, but so there's things that I'm looking forward to. I do wonder, like, and again, this is not, I'm not trying to discredit the athletes, but I think there were a few races last year where we saw some top 10 finishes, and you're just like, that athlete is not a top 10 finish. Like, objectively, you look, I mean, objectively they were, they got the result, but there are athletes where you can, and I will not name names because that would be cruel. But them being in a top 10 at a WTCS, I think devalues a WTCS event. And yeah, I think that we might see a lot more of that this season, which I think just sort of shows that, yeah, it's not a full WTCS year.
Yeah,
So,
totally. And I mean, to move on to Abu Dhabi race specifically, it's very difficult from this point, post Olympics, following the end of last season, start of a new series. Very difficult to even begin to predict what's going to happen and who's going to be on form. You don't know what people have been doing. You don't know what, something that me and India talked about in our interview, which is going to be on in a minute, is early season races. A lot of people come in and they are focused. You don't know where their focus is. You don't know where they're putting their eggs for the season. And so you don't know where everyone's going to be. So the idea of picking a winner at this point is guesswork, I would say.
is Maya Kingma on the start list? Did you see her name? Was it mentioned?
I haven't seen her here, but let me have a quick look. There's a full provisional start list here.
I'd love to see Maya do well this year. I still think was it 2021 where she had that, she won, what was it, Leeds? Was it Leeds at that point? Yeah, Leeds.
Yeah.
Podiumed in Yokohama. Yeah. Anyway, do we want to make picks?
Scrolling, hang on.
Do you want to make some provisional picks about who we think might win this race? Do you want to pick a little podium?
She's not on the start list.
Okay. So who's your picks?
Hayden Wild's I would say, would likely to win the men's. Just based on previous form. Alexi's not racing, but with a caveat of it's the first race of the season, and I know he's been doing a lot of DIY, so he might not be quite where he should be yet.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Barbecues and stuff. I'd quite like to see Matt Hauser do well. That's. I'm not going to build a podium. I wouldn't say. I don't think we're capable of that at this point. But
yeah, it's a bit early.
Hayden Wild, I think, for the win. I'd like to see Matt Hauser do well on the women's side. I mean, Cassandra Grant is racing. Her enthusiasm will be up. Beth Potter is racing. Emma Lombardi is racing. So,
Emma Lombardi. She's my one to watch this year. Emma Lombardi. I think that she's gonna be. I think Emma Lombardi is that heir apparent or Aaron Wading. The form that she's had at the age she's had over the last couple of years. We give her another 3 years now to prepare for LA.
Yeah,
I think she could be. I think we could see a bit of a period of France. I think France could go to the LA Olympics with the two favourites, and then after that we still have them have one of the favourites because Emma is so young. So I think we could see in women's triathlon a bit of a French run for the next few years, which I don't hate. Yeah. I think I'm gonna pick three, but I'm not gonna pick them in any particular order. I think I'm gonna put up there Vasco Velasquez, Matt Hauser, and Morgan Pearson. They're my three.
So
three
no
to watch. I often do this with Hayden. And again, I think Hayden is wonderful. We love you, Hayden. I just think it's too early in the season. I don't know where his priorities lay. I believe, going from what we heard, he was moving to middle distance. So I think this might just be keeping a foot in the pool, so to speak. But I also know that he's a racer that will always go out there to try to do his absolute best. I never think he's going to just go through the motions. I just wonder where, if he's been doing a lot of T100 specific work, how is he at this super short distance? I mean, Morgan Pearson, I think, is just, Hayden's a good runner. Morgan Pearson's better. So, yeah. I think Vasco is focused on this. Cassandra, Beth, and Emma. They're my three.
Yeah, that's my three as well. In any order at this point. I think our ability to make predictions is gonna improve as the season goes on because we'll start to collect data.
I mean, I'll probably will end up watching it. Maybe I will get excited about it, but at this point, I just don't have much excitement for WTCS racing this year. And that's just probably because a lot of those names that we know are it has been so public that they're not committed to the season. And as I said, I just think there's so many factors going to it. Like I'm even considering canceling my Triathlon Live subscription because I just go, I don't know if I want to watch it this year, especially because the price went up. Mate, you
Should we
have
stick an
done.
interview in?
I think we should. You have sat down with India Lee, friend of the podcast. We'll be back
Yeah.
afterwards.
And as we just said, I'm now joined by long course triathlon superstar India Lee. How you doing, mate?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. Where in the world are you at the moment? Where can we find you?
I am in Lanzarote. I just got out here for training camp for 3 weeks. So yeah, escaping the British weather to be out here in Lanzarote.
Yeah. I know we just did a little bit of a pre-recording chat about this, but just to give our listeners in the UK an idea of some context, how much better is the weather in Lanzarote right now for training and just general happiness?
It's significantly better. I've only been here for a couple of days, and I just feel like I'm like drying out from being in Britain for like 3 weeks. I just feel like I don't have to put multiple layers on every time I go outside, and yeah, it's significantly easier to get the work done.
Yeah. How did you have an off season at any point? Did you have any time off, any complete downtime?
Yeah, I had basically the whole of December off through a mixture of planned off season, and I just got a couple of colds that were going around in the UK. So
I think we all
I
did.
forced 6 weeks of easy.
We all got the same cough and cold for a while, I think.
Yeah.
Big national sickness month. I certainly did anyway.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
How does it feel now getting back into it? I mean, we're at the start of February, coming into the middle of February. Where do you feel like you're at in your training?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I came out here for the first 2 weeks of January. So I arrived here on I think it was the 4th of January, feeling like I would never feel fit or like a professional athlete again. And I went home from that camp feeling prepared to do some hard work at home. I went home for 3 weeks to do a bit of heat prep protocol testing because last year I was terrible in hot races. So we're getting on top of that early this year. And then, yeah, come out here for 3 weeks of a little bit more quality rather than just getting fit.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So doing more sort of technical workouts, things like that?
Yeah, like a few more like race specific type stuff, like race paces, a bit more intensity rather than just rolling around on my bike. It's actually got a little bit more purpose this time.
Beautiful place to do it.
It's great. Yeah, it's really good.
So let's go back in time and talk about 2024. You started that season with a victory in Miami at the T100.
Yeah.
I think I sent you a well done at the time.
Yeah.
I often do if you do well in races because I love to see it.
Yeah.
But how did that race victory feel? What was it like starting the year like that?
Oh, it was incredible. It was something that I'd never imagined would happen. I didn't see that in my future this time last year. So for it to actually happen, it still feels pretty surreal that I managed to win a race of that caliber. But it just gave me a huge amount of confidence and a bit of what's the word? Like assurance that I wasn't kidding myself all those years, thinking that I was capable of competing with the best in the world. It was sort of like, no, like I thought I could, and then thinking you can is very different to actually doing it. So to have done it, it just gave me a huge amount of confidence. Yeah.
At what point within that race, can you remember now, did you start to think, I'm going to do this, I can do this?
I think it's funny. I did a Q&A recently with my local triathlon club, and I was talking to my mum on the way home, and we were talking about that race and about her watching it while being on the phone to my best friend who was at home like 8 months pregnant. And I said that all I could think about during the race was that Mel's going to be like having her baby because she's quite emotional anyway, and she was about to have a baby. And on the footage, Mum said that I went through the last aid station, which was about, I think it was like 800 meters from the finish, and I yelled at somebody like, "What's the gap?" And they said it was 30 seconds or something, and I just yelled the F word, like, "Oh my god, like what is happening?" So yeah, I think it was 800 meters to go. I think I can probably hold 30 seconds.
I can hold it. That's the very British response to just yell "fuck" into the ether when something good is happening.
Like, fuck. Yeah.
So off the back of that, what did that leave you? I mean, you said that gave you the confidence to feel like you could do it, and like you know, to get rid of any idea of imposter syndrome and feeling like you deserve to be there, which we'd all known for a long time, but you obviously needed that victory to convince yourself. What did that leave you feeling like off the back of that race going into the rest of the season? Were you suddenly thinking, right, I'm going to challenge for the championship here? Or were you thinking, right, race by race, let's see how this builds?
No, I was quite realistic about it. It was the first race of the year, and everybody's going into the first race of the year in very different levels of fitness, and they want different things out of the race. So I wasn't like, well, this is it. I'm the best in the world. It was like, okay, like that was a really great race and brilliant that I won, but I very quickly went back to thinking like, right, you just got to like be competitive in these races, and if you get it right, then I've proved that I can get it really right. So I just stayed in my own lane basically and just carried on doing what I've been doing. Yeah,
fair enough. And you say you had some issues with the heat last year.
Yeah.
Was it a heat issue in Singapore where you DNF'd, or were you sick?
No, I'd been ill after Miami with like all the things that came along with a big win like that, from being somebody who people don't really know to winning that big race, and loads of people suddenly knew who I was and wanted to see how that race went for me. There were like different pressures coming in, so I had to deal with that. And then I just got ill. I think emotionally I was just pretty exhausted, and that caught up with me. And then I went to Singapore, and the conditions there, you can't go in there like undercooked, because you're just going to get eaten alive. And that's basically what happened. I just succumbed to the heat and humidity because I wasn't fit enough to be competing at the level that I was at. So
yeah, fair enough. But then you went and won the Challenge Championship. Following that, obviously you got over your illness, and the fitness and the form was still there. Did that underline to you that you had strength going into the year?
Yeah, that was a big like regrouping, I guess, after Miami, and then a low point in Singapore, and then going to the championship was sort of like steadying the ship almost.
Yeah. I mean, you had solid top 10 finishes for the rest of the T100s, apart from Dubai, where you were 12th, I think.
Yeah.
With a podium in Ibiza with a third place.
Yeah.
What was it, do you think, about the races you did well? Was it the, other than Singapore where you were ill, was it the heat in the races that you didn't do quite as well in? Or what was the difference later in the year?
I think we'd paced the year deliberately to peak around the championships, like around Ironman World Championships, which I ended up DNFing, and then again for the end of the year for Dubai. But I got ill, and then I got food poisoning leading into Dubai, so again went into that race underprepared, and again it's a race that you can't be underprepared for, because if you're not fit enough, it's gonna show dramatically, and that's what happened. But I think the races that I did well in, I was just really fit, and I'd had really good training, uninterrupted training blocks leading into them.
Yeah, no illness.
So, no illnesses, nothing like that. So I know that when I'm fit and haven't been ill, then I'm competitive. So that's just the goal going forward, is don't get ill.
Yeah, it's difficult though, isn't it? I mean,
it is difficult.
it's something that we all struggle with. It's something that even those of us who aren't pro athletes but just try and keep fit, we can all relate to that, especially in the UK this time of year with that ongoing battle to stay fit and healthy. And then someone like yourself who's traveling the world, you're going through airports, you're meeting different people at races. Like you say, you have success in Miami. Everybody wants a piece of you. There's a media obligations, there's in-person interviews, etc. You're going to pick up something, especially when your immune system's lowered after a race like that.
Yeah, it's tricky. Some people get unlucky or suffer with injuries, and on that front, touch wood, I've been pretty lucky, but I just seem to pick up illnesses really easily. So that's my Achilles heel.
Some people get both.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your DNF at Ironman Nice World Championships. I was there. I was so gutted. I was screaming when you came out of the water. What happened that day? What was the issue on that day?
That day was the fruition of just emotional exhaustion. I'd gone away to Font-Romeu to do training camp. I went to Font-Romeu for altitude, but also because it's in the mountains, because I wanted to get comfortable descending and stuff, because that's what you need to be good at on the Nice course. And basically I was just away from home for too long, and I went into that race just feeling really homesick and emotionally burnt out, I guess. I was really, really fit, which I proved the week later in Ibiza. But I just, I was just exhausted leading into the race because I just wanted to be somewhere else, which it's not very professional, which is ironic because I'd gone away thinking that I was doing everything I could to prepare for a world championship and put myself in the best possible position, which physically I did. But emotionally, I know that I really love being at home and I'd just been away from home for too long. So, Nice was a disaster.
I mean, you say it's not professional, but we can't ignore these feelings. It would be unprofessional to ignore that as a fact that you know and to not factor that into your prep. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, now it's top of the list for when I'm planning the lead up to races is make sure that I've been home recently.
So what about Nice? Obviously you didn't have the best race.
No.
What do you think about that race itself as a venue and a place to have a world championship?
Oh, it's an incredible course and it's an incredible venue. Personally, I think because of the size of Nice as a place, unless you're on the seafront where the race is taking place, if you're anywhere else in Nice, you have no idea a world championship is going on.
It's so true.
And I think that a world championship deserves more than that, which is what Kona allows to happen. And you go to Kona and Ironman have taken over the whole place, and the whole week leading up to it, the whole town is just about the Ironman, which gives it like such a big sense of occasion, which Nice is just it's not the same, I don't think.
No, I mean, it's very true that you can just wander a few streets out of the old town and you wouldn't know what's happening. But that's also a very French thing. You know, they will like the Tour de France in Paris, you can just meander away and you wouldn't know the Tour de France is going, which is the biggest event, you know, in that city in the year, really.
Yeah, true.
It's but I hear what you're saying. What do you think about the split between the men's and the women's? Do you like having that separate event, or where do you stand on it all?
I think for like the whole sense of occasion of it, I think it's much better if we're all in the same place. But I do think having separate days for men and women is the way to go. Just because as a woman, it's nice to have free reign of the race course rather than having the guys up the road. You sort of feel like that's the race and then you're just following along. So having separate days is great, but also all being in the same place is better, because like I like supporting the guys when I'm not racing.
Yeah.
And if they're halfway across the world somewhere, then that's not possible.
No, so you're a proponent of same weekend, Saturday, Sunday racing, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If
I think it's
possible.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think from a spectator's point of view, that the World Championship in Nice that I saw you race was the first time I'd been to one of the separated events, and I'm completely with you. I like the sense of everybody being in one place at one time, but there was such a moment when I saw the two lead women go out onto the run course on their own, and it was an empty course.
Yeah.
That really sort of hit something inside me, and I was like, that's an important moment.
It's really important because it highlights them and how great they are, rather than getting lost in the back markers of the men's race. It's like, these women are incredible. Like, let's show them that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. So 2024 overall.
Yeah.
Where do you put that season? How happy with it were you?
Oh, I was incredibly happy with it. There were obviously a few races where it didn't go right, but as a whole, there were moments where, like the 2 podiums that I got in the T100 series, I would take those any day rather than being like having a better average over the year, because they gave me the hope that that's possible more often, I guess.
And what changes, looking back at that? You had a really successful season, looking at your results, there's a lot of good there. That win, the podium, top 10 finishes, consistency really, apart from a few moments where you were sick and you had some issues.
Yeah.
What changes are you making? You've already mentioned some heat prep. You've mentioned like a sort of getting home protocol.
Yeah.
What changes are you making for this season off the back of learnings from last?
Changes that I've made are, prioritizing health, which like I've always done, but I guess I know the importance of those 3 weeks leading into a race. So I guess I'm just gonna cocoon myself off at home to prevent illnesses, and that also ticks the at-home box. Just making sure that I have consistency over everything else, because I'm not an athlete who needs like these hero sessions or anything like that to get confidence. I get confidence from having like a solid week in, week out. And the races that I performed well in last year were off the back of those kind of blocks. So that's all I'm aiming for, just consistency throughout the year. And that comes by not getting ill.
Yeah, fair enough. And what are you doing from a heat preparation perspective?
The heat prep. So I just did 10 days worth of basically testing the heat prep that we do to check that it works, which it seems really early to be doing heat prep, but it was more of are we doing it right kind of thing. And it's easier to test it in January than it is to test 2 weeks out from the first race of the year. So I'm going to be doing my heat prep leading into Singapore, knowing that it works. Scientifically it works. So that'll give me a lot of confidence. And then, there's a lot of hot races this year. So now we've got a plan. We can just put that in place before races that we need it for.
So you got yourself a T100 contract for this year.
Yeah.
What is the focus this year, without giving away all your secrets, mate? What is the focus for this year? Where are you putting your pennies?
It's a good question, and I'm quite far into the year to still be undecided. But obviously the T100, I really, really enjoy those races. The whole atmosphere around the races as an athlete, I really enjoy. So the T100 series is a focus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm trying to decide whether or not I do an Ironman. Nice left a fairly large, deep scar. So getting over that is the first hurdle. but yeah, main focus will be T100, and then if I can get my head around it, I'll maybe do an Ironman.
And would that be with a look to get to Kona?
Yeah.
And how much of an allure do you feel from that race
For
compared
Kona?
to Nice? Yeah.
Oh, I'm like really, really keen to do Kona. I'd already had a conversation with my coach that I'm definitely next year. I definitely want to target Kona, and then his argument is maybe we could just go this year.
Yeah, mate. Look, if you want to focus on it next year,
Yeah,
this year's a good time to go and try it out a little bit.
yeah.
Test the water, get used to it. You don't want that focus year to be the first year you've gone and put your toe in that water.
I suggested we just went and did like a little training camp there and like tested it that way.
Yeah. I don't know whether a training camp can simulate those race day conditions, can they?
That's what he said.
There you go. So
Yeah.
the draw to Kona is real. You haven't gone like, okay, for a minute I'm going to focus on the T100 and the Ironman stuff can go to one side. It's still there and it's still burning.
Yeah, there's definitely a big draw to Kona. Which interestingly, I didn't feel the same about going to Nice, but I do feel like Kona is a race that I really, really want to experience. So yeah, there is a big draw to go there.
Yeah, I mean, watching that men's race in Kona last year, I'm still not in 2025 yet. It was amazing, wasn't it? I mean, it really brought home to me the importance of that race. As someone who has said multiple occasions, I'm not sure we need Kona. We need it there as a race, but I'm not sure it needs to be the World Championship. This year's men's race really made me go, oh, hang on a second. That was fucking brilliant. Yeah,
I agree. I think that each year, like the further you get away from Kona, people are like, World Championships doesn't really need to be there, does it? And then you get closer back to Kona and the hype starts building, and then people get out there and you're like, oh, okay, like it's Kona, like, and then you watch the racing and it's so brutal and the course is so unforgiving that it's just got that extra element that I don't think you get anywhere else.
Are you hearing any whispers about bringing the men and women back together in Kona? What do you know as a pro athlete with your ear to the ground?
I don't know anything. I just do me.
Fair enough. So you've got no inside scoops for us?
I've got no inside scoops, just like manifestation. Everybody's just got to manifest it. That it's going to happen in Kona.
It would be very cool. I would love to see them, having done this experiment, invest in a full weekend of racing. You could even do the age groupers on the Friday, pros on the Saturday and the Sunday, and just have a festival of triathlon across that weekend where everybody can watch.
It would be incredible. Yeah.
So what's your take on the T100? We've had a few years of it now.
Yeah.
The T100 series last year, the PTO have been in existence for a while. They've been trying to build this. They've been adding races on. We started in, was it Daytona in 2020?
Yeah, 2020. Yeah.
Which feels like it was only a couple of years ago, but it was fucking ages ago now.
It was ages ago.
As a pro athlete and someone who's relying on the sport to make a living, trying to make a career out of it. I mean, you have made a career out of it, trying to, further that career and find success. Yeah. What do you think about the T100 and the PTO and what they're trying to achieve?
I think it's really good. Talking from my point of view, which is the only point of view I can give, I wouldn't still be a professional athlete if it wasn't for PTO and those races that they put on and the opportunities that they provided. Like financially, I would have just not been able to sustain any kind of part of the sport. So for me, when I've been given an opportunity by the PTO, I've jumped on it because they've helped me out like significantly. And I think they were perhaps the catalyst in making the professional side of our sport more professional, where Ironman have sort of jump to the challenge and up their game for the professional side of stuff and putting on the pro series. I think it's brilliant.
Do you think those two entities are capable of existing at the same time going forward? Or do you think they're gonna either find they have their own sets of athletes who specialize for the pro series, which is the longer distance stuff with a bit of 70.3 in it, hinged around those world championship races, and the T100 is going to find its own type of athlete who focuses on that? Or do you think it's going to kind of eat itself over time and athletes are going to try and do both and burn out, and we're going to see a strange kind of reaction to it?
I think it's good to have two entities with a bit of competition between them, because that's only going to help both of them up their games. Like, neither of them are going to be complacent about the fact that they hold all the like power, for want of a better word, over the pro athletes. Last year people tried to do both, and very few people were successful in being good at both, which I think is let me think, I need to get my thoughts in order, but I don't think that it's a bad thing that we have both, and it lets people who want to focus on Ironman get more out of the sport than thinking that they need to do the short, sharp T100 stuff. That they do Ironman because they want to do Ironmans, and if the T100 was the only thing for us as pro athletes, then they would have to do the shorter distance when they don't really want to. So I don't know where
competition
is good, isn't it?
It's a good thing. Yeah,
in any industry is good. You don't want a monopoly, because then everybody has to like fall in line. So yeah.
I think we're going to see some specialization over time. I think there'll be those genetic freaks who can leap backwards and forwards, but we're probably going to see a specialization over time where some people are more preconditioned to race the longer stuff.
Yeah.
Some will find that slightly faster T100 racing more to their liking.
Yeah, I agree. And that's good. That
is good.
Yeah.
So in terms of you, where do you think your skill set suits? If there was no financial benefit over either, what would you rather be doing, and what do you think your skills? There's two questions there, really. What would you rather be racing, and where do you think your skill set suits best? Are you one of these people who can jump backwards and forwards, or are you someone that would just rather be racing the long distance, or would you rather forget all the finances, forget the prize money, forget the series per se?
For me, the long distance is, I don't think I enjoy it enough to do it when it doesn't really, really matter. So by that I mean, like, if I'm not racing in a world championship, then Ironman it's a long day out, and it's not that dynamic racing, which I really enjoy. The shorter distance, it really matters, like where you are in the swim and where you get out on the bike, and you can play tactics. It's not a like best effort for you. Like in an Ironman, it's your best effort over 8 hours or 9 hours, whatever it takes, just steady away all day. But in the shorter distance, in T100, you can actually like race the race, and I really enjoy that. And so it's not a 9 hour day.
Less of a case of managing your effort and more attacking the race.
Yeah, you can take risks, and you can try different things, and you're not wasting 6 weeks of work by blowing up too early and bonking on a marathon. You're just giving it a go.
So if you were to race an Ironman this year, which one would you go for?
I haven't got that far yet.
Fair enough.
I need a lot more convincing.
Yeah, fair play. So T100, you're going to be in that series.
Yes.
You got yourself a contract for this year.
Yes.
Looking at last season, there's one name who, when she was racing, she dominated.
Yes.
How do you approach taking on someone with that level of dominance? Do you have to think about that person as Taylor Knibb as an entity that you're going to race in a certain way? Or do you just think, no, I go and do my best and the race is what it is?
Yeah, the latter. I rarely think about the people who I'm racing against and how I'm going to beat them, because there's so many different scenarios that can happen in races. If I'd gone into Miami last year thinking, how am I going to beat everybody, I would have like written it off. Like there's X person I can't beat them because they're just better than me. But all I do is I just try to get better, and if I get better, then hopefully I'm going to get closer to the people who are regularly beating me. And if I'm close enough, then maybe I can
I mean, you've proven that on your day you can win that race.
Yeah, and that's a nice feeling to know. But I also need to get better because I'm not winning every race.
So if we were having this chat this time next year, what does a good 2025 have looked like for you? What do you want to have achieved?
More consistency. And just more consistency at the higher level that I've shown that I can perform at. And I know it sounds really annoying, but I just triathlon is my life and racing is my life, but I just want to get to the end of the year happy again. Yeah,
that's really cool to hear,
because I don't if I won every race next year, but I get to the end of the year and I'm miserable with life, then it doesn't mean anything. So
worn out, burnt out, and missing home.
Yeah, that's not fun. That's not a way to collect stories to tell people for the rest of your life. So yeah,
that's a really good
more
way
consistency, but doing it in the way that I want to do it and enjoying it.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to look at it.
It's a bit mushy, isn't it? But
no, I mean, look, what are we here for? And how long we're here for? None of us know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, you gotta do the things that make you feel happy.
Yeah.
What is, obviously you're away on a camp at the moment. What's training like at home? Do you have a good setup there? Are there any issues with being at home other than the weather and possibly getting ill because it's the UK?
The only issue is I would like my commute to the pool each day to be a little bit shorter. And
if I could just press a button and be in a swimming pool.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Oh, imagine it.
And maybe for the manager of my local leisure centre to respond to me when I ask if I can hire a lane. Other than that, I love being at home and I love training at home.
You want to name and shame said manager? I mean, now's the time.
No. I just get no, sorry, lane hire isn't available.
Do they know who you are? You should just whip that out. Do you know who
That's
I am?
That's why I go there, though. I'm anonymous.
So, how long have you been Lanzarote for? How long are you there?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the start of a 3-week training block, and then back to the UK. Have you got any other plans for training camps anywhere?
No, not yet. Just planned up to Singapore so far, and then and then we'll go from there.
And are you out there with your coach? Have you got people with you, or are you just following a plan?
No, I'm out here with Kat Matthews.
Okay.
And her husband, Meg McDonald, who's another training partner, and then my coach arrives in 10 days, so he's here for the second half. Cool. And my mum's here for the middle week.
Oh, I like your mum. She's always so nice whenever I see her.
She's brilliant.
Yeah, she's so friendly.
She is.
One of the only people at a triathlon event who I don't know who's ever just recognised me.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh, blimey, are you James Bale? Yes. Have I done
Brilliant.
something?
Did you think you were in trouble?
I thought I might be in trouble. Yeah, just for a second. Just for a second. I didn't know who he was, but no, she's a lovely human being.
Yeah, she is.
Where's your little dog?
She's at home with mum and dad at the moment.
Okay,
Yeah.
so she
Getting
stays at
spoiled.
home. She never travels with you.
No, although I did. She's had all her jabs and documentation for traveling into Europe now. But yeah, it's just I just feel like on training camp it's not very fair for her to be here because she'll just be in a hotel room and that's boring for her. But at home she can get support by my dad.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
Put on a kilo.
I'm going to be keeping a very keen eye on the season ahead. I can't wait to see how it goes. I've got
thank you very much.
Really high expectations, and I'm pulling for you all the time, as you know. I hope 2025 treats you really well.
Thanks, James.
Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
Well done, Jimbo. Amazing stuff.
Mate, I like to think that we both nailed that, to be honest. We were two podcast interviewer and interviewees at the top of our game, peaking, some would say.
I don't know if you ever don't peak, to be honest, James. You're one of those guys who defies science because it's all peak. It's all peak with James Bell. There's no trough.
Just a line.
Just peak, mate. Just a peak specimen of.
No, it was a really interesting chat. We spent a long time talking about 2024, and how her season had played out, and the confidence that's given her going forward, the belief, the ability to sort of, we didn't use the term imposter syndrome, but to shed any idea that she wasn't capable of achieving really, really solid, strong results with that win in Miami, and then top 10 finishes throughout the rest of the season, podium in Ibiza, and bouncing through the season like that. So, and then we talked about T100, we talked about Nice, we talked about the Ironman Nice split, and then we talked about the season, what's happening this year and what changes she's going to make. That is as yet undecided. I tried to prize out which one she was going to do to qualify for Kona, but she wasn't.
I think she could do well in Kona.
I believe so too. And she said, as you've just listened to, she said that she really wants to focus on Kona next year. So my point was, well, if you want to focus on Kona next year, you better go and try Kona this year, because you don't want the focusing on it next year to be your first time you put your foot in that ocean.
So it sounds like everybody's just saying it's back in Kona next year.
Well, next time then, maybe.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I think it's probably accurate anyway. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for doing that, Jimbo. I am looking forward to listening. I actually should reach out to India about coming on the Endurers. I think she could be a good guest if she's talking about those sort of things with you.
I really think she would. Yeah, I think there's a lot. There's a lot in there, as you'll hear in the interview. She talked about last year. She focused a lot on doing what was considered professional, which was, going to the training camps, spending a lot of time away from home, going to these races. And then towards the end of the season, when she was in Nice, when she DNF'd in Nice, she said it was like the culmination of realizing that she really likes being at home and she doesn't like being away for that length of time. And from a sort of emotional well-being point of view, she said in the interview, it's not a very professional way to look at it, but I like to be at home. And I countered that with, well, look, the unprofessional thing to do would be to know that and not
do it anyway.
And do it anyway. Yeah, exactly. If you know that you're going to get the best at yourself by going home quite frequently and being around the people you want to be around and being where you want to be, then that's the professional decision to make, isn't it?
Well, one of the other professional decisions to make is to head to patreon.com/Talking Triathlon, where you can support the podcast. But if, James, you want to find out all that other stuff about Talking Triathlon, where do you need to go?
If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/Talking Triathlon. You can follow Tim at T14 on Instagram, or I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. We are on some social networks. Which one?
Instagram.
We're on Instagram at Talk Triathlon without the
Talking
ing.
Triathlon. It's at Talking Triathlon on Instagram. Yeah.
It's at Talking Triathlon on Instagram. We're at Talk Triathlon, the other one we don't talk about anymore, that we're not on.
We're not on there
because it's full of wankers.
It's gone. We deleted it.
If you want to join the Patreon group, you'll get access to the monthly bonus episode and the social group, and we'll put you in the WhatsApp group, which is forever entertaining.
Certainly is. YouTube as well, good place to go. We always appreciate
YouTube
the comments.
For comments. If you've got anything to say, put it on YouTube. One of us will reply fairly quickly, depending on what time it is in the world.
Correct. Again, yeah, even if you don't want to watch, just go subscribe. It helps us out. Like it, all that stuff. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell button, whatever they say in videos. Jimbo, thank you very much. We will be back next week to review talking triathlon, to review WTCS Abu Dhabi a little bit. We'll probably try to get another guest on. We are actively reaching out. So if you're a pro athlete who listens, we know plenty of you do, and you're keen to have a chat, get in touch with us because we need something to get through the next few weeks.
I want Beckegaard on. I want him to read my WhatsApp messages. He's stopped reading my WhatsApp messages.
He's left you on. He's left you on sent. Maybe he's changed his number and you haven't been.
No, he's just archived me, isn't he?
Mate, that's brutal. Me. Tell him I'll interview him because I know we had a good chat in Singapore a couple of years ago. Maybe he'll want a Tim Ford chat. I'll have a few drinks before and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, lubricate it with some beers.
Jimbo, thank you very much. Talk to you later.
Cheerio.